Welcome back to the Deep Plea. In this podcast, we aim to have deep conversations about all sorts of interesting topics to gain more insight and wisdom from the world around us. My name is Karthik. The guy on the other side of the mic is Sven,
Hello, hello.
and today we're going to talk about college and modern education. Let's start
Yep.
with a quote for today. The state of modern education has been changing right before our eyes. Like Bitcoin, education will continue to decentralize. Creators are the new teachers, consumers are the new students. Dan Coe. So I'll start with a little explanation for this quote. So basically, what he's trying to say is that the modern method of education, which is, you go to high school, then you go to college, that, and then you go out in the real world and you get a job. He's saying
Yeah.
that that is going to change before our eyes. It already has been changing. We can see, X, Y, and Z websites have, these courses that are, $50 instead of $2,000 for a college course, right? And,
No.
when college tries to make us, I guess, a well-rounded individual, sure, we can see the good intentions, but at the end of the day, what is a well-rounded individual if not sharp in certain areas? Sven, what do you have to say about this quote for today?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially with college, like you grow up as a kid from elementary to high school, and then even after that, you have to continue education if you want to get a degree. And I think that COVID really made it so that as kids that need to go to school that couldn't anymore, they needed to learn online. And now that we have like AI and different softwares, like you mentioned, different things, we can actually develop education programs online for kids or even college students. And you don't really need to go into school and socialize and all that stuff. And I think that that is definitely kind of like you said, Bitcoin decentralization, where you can actually start having private sectors doing their own educational institutions rather than the government always, having public schools for everybody. And that's kind of also, I think, going to affect taxes too, because a lot of times we spend like property taxes on our schools. And I think that infrastructure change is going to kind of follow this education change. But I don't know what the material difference would be. As life goes on and things happen, we learn more and more. So, is the curriculum going to change as we find out more things? Either one about the material, or two, how to teach people and kids, because clearly, kids can't really just sit in a room all day. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how the future of technology kind of changes education.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think like you can see in COVID, right? The COVID happened and then people left their left their jobs or they went remote, right? And even
Sure.
my dad had said, "Oh, when we went remote, yeah, our company actually like had an increase in productivity." And so
Interesting.
now they want we can maybe go into the depth on this in a future episode, but now he has to go back into work for a few days a week. And
Oh,
the aim for that was to not lose quote unquote company culture. And so
interesting.
that's like it's a really weird thing when like you're a company and you want profits and you want productivity, but you like say you want this culture too, and it's like, yeah, it's well intentioned, but I guess what is culture? I mean, I guess I'm not in a workplace, but
Yeah.
what is culture per se? Is culture like the same thing as school, where it's like the friendly environment? Hey, you get to go to clubs, you get to go to social activities. It's kind of the same thing. And you know, we could argue that obviously people when they're growing up, right, when they're kids, they need that social interaction. But
Yeah.
when we get to a mature level, then we should be able to make better choices for ourselves. And if we want to pursue education from the comfort of our own home, hopefully that doesn't have too much of a impact. I don't think it does, frankly, on like our social well-being and getting a job out there in the real world. I think it might
Yeah.
actually make you happier that if you kind of look at it from the outside, like a third person perspective, that you're actually improving your knowledge at
Right.
hopefully a fraction of the cost. And Sven, I'll ask you the easy question for today. If we
Yeah.
can learn almost anything outside of school for a fraction of the cost, then what are the good benefits of college in the modern era to pay a lot of money for?
Yeah, I mean, to pay a lot of money for, I don't know if there's ever going to be that, but you have people can learn better in like a real environment with students, and it's more engaging with teachers. but I think that kind of culturally or as a society, it's like this sense of community because schools and colleges they can have things outside of the classrooms like events and clubs, and I think that kind of maintaining that traditional, socializing within the education system is important, and that is one aspect that I think can be beneficial to pay for because you meet new people. And yeah, I guess it's kind of outside the realm of education, but for education itself, I guess it's just more so engaging in real life, but definitely you can learn online. You don't necessarily need to pay to go into a facility anymore. I don't know if there's any good reason to aside from socializing and having a sense of community, but I think overall though that is kind of a pretty important thing to spend money on, especially if you are trying to enter the world and get like connections and that
Yep,
thing. But
that's
yeah,
exactly what I was gonna say is that okay, you can I mean college is a place where people like hopefully define who they are, right? Um, hopefully we say this optimistically, right? And
yeah,
you know, I've definitely can say I've had my fair share of that in 2 years at college, and I think it's been a very good place to like interact with other people and learn about people's experiences. But at the same time, Sven is someone I've learned so much from, so many experiences and like just the things that we talked about that, and I've met him online. I've only actually met him in person one time. So
yep,
I can have an online friendship, right, such that I have an online education, and it can be perhaps as beneficial, if not more beneficial.
yep.
So, Sven, I'll also ask you the hard question for today. It's a triple header, so I'll ask you the first question first.
All right.
What is the future of learning?
I mean, if you really want to get into it, I think that aside from AI softwares and finding the best algorithms to teach kids and all these things, I think that you can actually have a BCI, which is like a brain cloud interface, where you can actually. I mean, this is going to be like super futuristic, but it's not actually too far off if you look at the literature, where you can actually have electrodes in the brain that you can put information into the brain via these electrodes, and it actually is kind of just like you're uploading information or downloading information into the brain. Of course, that's super futuristic, but aside from direct input of information, I think you can have institutions that teach people in real life, but I don't know if that is going to be the future, as we've seen like pandemics and different things, and it may not be the safest. You never know what kind of implications there might be. I think online learning, the only issue with that is going to be parents have to work and you can't really have your kid at home. So it could also be this like cyber learning thing, but you do kind of go to an institution in some way. Um, I also don't know if the curriculum would change. I think right now the curriculum is very still traditional, old school. You kind of learn like these basic things, but you don't really learn about like psychology early on, or like even like anatomy, or kind of like navigating socially. It's really just these pen paper, like you just write down very basic stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how the curriculum is going to change, but I definitely think that softwares and those things are going to take over. I mean, even when I was in school, um, I graduated 2016, but we did have softwares already where they'd kind of like read things to you and all that. So that already was implemented. I don't know. What do you think?
I think the future of learning can be like, so let's say as a younger generation, let's compare the younger, like the elementary school and like college. So I
Mhm.
think in elementary and college, both uh, sects of people can engage in courses like online courses so they can go to their school. Let's say if they still want to go to college, they can go to college. But I think that a nice addition to just learn more information and get a more direct point of interest to what you actually want to learn about would be through these
Yep.
online courses that are very niche and very specific and get to the point again for a fraction of the cost. So if a young kid is interested in engineering and he, can take this online course. It's maybe $200. They send him a little engineering kit, and he's able to get some real world experience right there with his little kit,
Yep.
breaking apart things, seeing how they work, and there's an instructor online that takes him through that. So that could be a very integrative experience. And also the same thing, let's say, if we're trying to get like a coding course when we're in college and we want to learn more about I was just talking to my dad today about, hey, I want to take a course over the summer, a little online course in like artificial intelligence, machine learning. And
Yeah.
then I could very easily do some projects, right? Put that on my portfolio as experience to show to employers. That's right, employers. And
Yeah.
then it could also just be something that's fun, right? We could
Yeah.
even do courses to improve like our hobbies. And I think that we talk about education in maybe just one way, which is just
Hmm.
education to get the job. Or
Yeah.
that's kind of what's done, especially if my courses are expensive and I think gen eds are a waste of time, then I think,
Definitely.
you
Yeah.
know, I just want to go straight shot. So
Right.
the second question of the hard question is, will we live in a society in the coming decades that receives most of its knowledge from education, I guess from content creators and online courses? And I think that that's already happening.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
Definitely on YouTube, right? I can just look up any YouTube video to learn something, and someone will have there be a 15-minute episode, a 30-minute episode, an hour episode, 2 hour episode, 4 hour episode. There's all
Yep.
these different things. If I want to, a short little intro, I can get that. If I want a really in-depth course, I can get that too. Um, so I think definitely the world is already heading there. And I think maybe that percentage will I think it's on a linear kind of scale right now. Like as time goes by, it'll linearly just increase
Hmm.
until maybe it levels off. But
Yeah.
I think that's where it's at right now. Sven, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah. Elon Musk had a quote. He was like, "I don't care about your degree. Just prove to me that you can do X, Y, Z." And I think that if that is an adopted philosophy for a lot of companies in the future, that could definitely have a big impact on people using these sources for education rather than an institution. Um, you know, that's going to be the future. I think, especially, Elon is working on engineering and technology, and he's already hiring people that don't even have degrees. Like for me, like I downloaded Unity like a couple months ago, and I just for like not even a day, maybe just for like 6 hours, I was really into it, and I was able to actually kind of get decently far. And it was just me sitting down for 6 hours. Whereas if I went to a course on Unity, the first couple days might just be like an introductory, learn these kind of things that are like tedious that you may not need to use for like specific projects that I wanted to do. And it also kind of draws out the learning process. And it takes up more time. Like you're spending time going there, sitting down, spending on the college. Whereas, I just kind of watched the video, I downloaded the program, and I just kind of followed along. So I definitely think that for example, if I did that I loved it and I did that for 2 years straight and I completely started understanding the program, I could just, hit up a software company and just be like, hey, look, I can do all these things. I didn't have an education, but like, what do you want me to make? And I'll make it, for example. And if
Hmm.
that's the case, then, you're going to have a lot of that.
Yeah, if you can just freelance for them, then they'll be like, okay, like, I don't
Right.
see
Now,
why
and
not.
of course you have doctors and lawyers that need licenses, but that's a
Yeah,
whole
I mean,
different.
I think that's always the wild card you can throw at
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
But I think we're talking to the other like 200
Yeah.
and or hundreds of professions, right? And Sven,
Right.
I want you to tell your story about your music making actually as well. I think that's a very
Oh, yeah.
inspirational story. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so the way I got into it real quickly was that my brother was moving out from Minnesota and he had this Ableton keyboard MIDI thing, and I, plugged it in and got it working. Downloaded Serum, got Ableton. I used the free trial like pretty much every day for 60 days. Um, and then so my brother, he kind of knew a little bit about music theory, and so he'd kind of give me tips. But I ended up just watching just for days on end, just like all these videos about music and how to develop things, and having a reference track like above your music so you can follow along to see what the song that you're trying to kind of mimic is doing. And like very quickly I was able to kind of understand the whole components of arrangement of music and theory. Practicing, like even online, there's just like, are you tone deaf, and it would just play a note and you'd have to guess what note it is, and just repeating that over and over, I was able to, now I can just hear something and be like, okay, this is the key. Whereas in a program like in a school music theory classes, that's something that's going to be like a whole semester long, where I literally just kind of pop that down into like a week or two of just like watching YouTube. And so I just took like a huge course I would be spending money for and just shortened it and also didn't spend any money. But yeah, I think that no one has to go to school for music unless they want to. Honestly, even this day, you actually don't even have to do for anything. Maybe audio engineering, if some studios and stuff want you to have a degree, but like we said, that's going away. If you know what you're doing, you show up and you show them, you're going to get the job if you're good at it. Um, But
Yeah, I
yeah, I mean,
mean,
it's not very academic.
perhaps even if you're a lawyer and you know the law inside and out, then hey, does it
There's a
really,
movie about that.
is it? Which one?
Yeah, I forget the movie name, but he goes to I think like, Harvard Law and stuff like that, and the guy's like, "Well, you don't have a degree, so I don't know why you're here for an interview." And then he's like, "Pick up that book," and it was like the book of law or whatever.
Oh my God.
And then the guy was like,
Boss
he's like, "Oh."
music incoming.
Yeah, he's like, open up the book randomly. He's like, read anything off of it. And then he started, reading off something random. And then the guy just started, finishing his sentence and saying the whole paragraph because he remembered it all. And then so he got the job over all these other people that got degrees because, he was genuinely interested and just memorized this whole law book.
What a beast.
And yeah, so yeah, I mean, yeah.
All right, quickly, let's touch on the, sorry, I don't mean to rush us, but let's just touch on the last hard question. Could colleges go out of business? Oh my. I think I could
Yikes.
say, I think I'd say yes. I think it's possible.
Hmm.
I think it's possible for some. Well, okay, let me give, it's maybe not yes or no. I think it's possible for some, but it's not going to be possible, I don't think, for colleges that have a huge culture behind them. I don't think it's
Yeah.
possible. But I think like maybe community colleges, maybe that
Yeah.
could be just an online form of, hey, this is our community college now. It's online. Take these classes and you'll get the same like degree, maybe even faster because maybe they don't. Does community college require gen eds like that? Do they? I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Okay.
mainly gen eds.
Oh,
Yeah.
mainly. Okay. Oh, that makes sense. So maybe they say, hey, if you want this degree, hey, you can do it at your own pace, do it these classes, and you get your degree. Um, but
Well, it's still business though.
that is business, but maybe hopefully less expensive business. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's
already
true.
is online schools like that, and I
Yeah.
think yeah, the world is moving already in that direction. Not in the coming decade, but right this moment as we're speaking. Sven, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times with a question like, will something, like a binary one or zero, like go off, go on, stop, or continue? I think that it's also possible that it could adapt. Like at the
Mm.
college, the business
Yep.
could adapt in a way to maybe do things differently. Maybe it's not even about just getting the degree. It's like, oh, so we're a school and we have all these companies that if you go through our training, there's like this, rate that they'll hire you. So if you really want to work for Goldman Sachs, you go to this school. It's not really about even just getting the degree. It's about kind of entering your way into this company.
Hmm.
Which is, it's very much kind of like an assembly line where people just kind of go and it's like, this is the company I want to work for. And then they just kind of do that. Um, but adapting in that way too. Yeah, I don't know how else they could adapt. I mean, of course you have the online stuff, but I think they're always going to try and find a way to make money. That's
Yep.
just, I think that's
Oh, that makes sense. I mean, here at the Deep Plea, we don't answer yes or no questions anyways, so we kind of make it into a nuanced argument. But I think I just want to touch
yeah.
really quickly that I think, yeah, if let's say Elon, right? Has this, let's say, rocket engineer. He has this job, and assuming it's going to be there in the coming years, he's like, hey, there's this course for rocket engineer. If you take this course and you
Right.
pass, you get job. Like,
Yep.
could you imagine that's such a direct process to course, job, and that could take year, maybe. If you work
Yeah.
really hard at it, maybe a year. And that's just
Right.
a crazy thing that definitely could be possible. So, thank you
Yeah.
for checking out this episode of College versus Modern Education and Modern Education. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully we're part of your modern education for today. Thank you very
Indeed.
much. See you in the next episode.
See you.